All right then. Paul Pogba's been talking about Man United during an international break. What a blast from the past that is. Obviously, main headline, his 4-year ban has been reduced and he's now speaking publicly about that to some extent. He has said that it was accidental and Cass agree with him, and now he will be back playing around about March or be able to train again. Just on that note, I am happy for him. I think the punishment should fit the crime, and if it was an accident and that the evidence doesn't suggest he's done it on purpose, then 4 months does seem excessive, right? But really, the main headline for me here is what he's been saying about United. So I want to jump into some of the quotes and get into what he's been saying about us now. So, first quote. I went back to Manchester because I spoke to him and he convinced me to come back. I don't know why it turned into a nightmare and us fighting, because I wasn't fighting. I didn't start the fight. Obviously, he's talking about Mourinho, right? And that's the reason he came back. And I remember this time quite well. I think the up and down nature of what their relationship wasn't very good. But I just remember that Mourinho's sentiment was always right. He wanted to get the most out of players. And especially after Zlatan left and that sort of guiding light wasn't there, I think their relationship really suffered after that. I think Mourinho wanted so much and thought, he could build that bond with Pogba. But it just didn't work out. And Mourinho did say things like maybe Pogba could be a centre-back. I mean, not Paul Pogba's dream, that is it. And there was just no trust between them in the end, was there? There are obviously, some good displays, I think, from Paul Pogba. I've always thought he played very well for us at his best, and there's some revisionism about that not being true. I'm not really buying. But he wasn't consistent, was it? Mourinho wanted to get the best out of him and challenge him. And I think Benny McCarthy said this the other day. He wants to bond with you and feel like he can get that extra bit out of you. And it just never happened, It feels like, what we thought would happen and even what Paul Pogba thought would happen never really materialised. But I guess whose fault was that? We can maybe look into some more quotes and see where the blame may lie. So he also said, I was 27 back then. It didn't work out the way I wanted. I gave my best, but I didn't see the club going upwards. I agree with that, to be honest with you. He was there for 3 years. We weren't really ideally positioned, and, it wasn't really the sort of progress and sort of upward trajectory that we wanted and we all wanted, and he's right about that. But I always feel like, did he not want to be part of the solution of that? I remember when he's talking about this period, end of the 18-19 season, he had a really strong end to the season, took a lot of penalties, but ended up with, I think, 13 Premier League goals. But it was an inconsistent season. I mean, he started off playing badly and the manager got sacked. He had that infamous video on social media during a game that was particularly unwise. And I just look at some of what he's saying there, I gave my best. I don't think he did. I really don't believe that. I think his mentality is part of the problem. I think Rooney referred to this where some of the sort of feelings he would have after sort of not doing well was not really being reciprocated by the rest of the players. Now, he did also come, and I saw this earlier today, and say that this here wasn't true and that didn't happen. And you can ask Jesse Lingard, he said it wasn't true. I mean, the other guy getting blamed in the scenario being your sort of evidence there isn't really the strongest, is it? And also, Rooney never said it, Rio Ferdinand said it. And I've also seen today a clip of the exact time we drew 0-0 to Hull. The next day, Rio Ferdinand's going on about their dancing on Instagram. It's all true. It's all nonsense. Don't know what he's talking about there. Next, I spoke to Ed to try to make a move, but he blocked it. I didn't want to play for United anymore, but I had to be professional. Mentally, I wasn't there, and then I got the injuries. Just every fan's dream, that. Well, the move was blocked. We'll talk about that quickly. Don't know what the thought process is behind that. I understand you've signed a player, he's got a contract, and you should do that. But to be honest, after 3 years of knowing him, you should have known he was going to check out. He's not really an elite mentality player. I think he's quite a sort of go with the wind type of guy. And I think really it emphasises why we hate that era so much. You look at the things that were happening under Woodward. He saw Pogba as such a commercial asset that he had 3 more years of, and he wasn't going to give that up, even though the performances weren't matching and the player wanted to go. But it also makes no sense. I mean, I had to be professional. Mentally, I wasn't there. That's just nonsense. I mean, he was never really professional after that, you know. Top form was rarely seen, although in flashes you could really see the great player that he can be. There's even some doubts about the injuries he was claiming. I mean, I think when we were at Anfield under Ralph Rangnick towards the end, or maybe it was at home against Liverpool, I can't remember, but the consensus is he bottled that game and then never really came back for the rest of the season. And I tend to sort of believe that, to be honest. I mean, he's just not really the sort of person who wanted to rebuild the club, stick with it, you could have any faith in. Great player, but you've really got to build around him. And some of his quotes here, I mean, was he mentally ever there in the sense that, you know, you and I might wish as fans? I don't think he understands how we viewed him, and even his teammates and his manager viewed him. We thought he was amazing. I mean, at his best, we loved him, and we just wanted to see that more consistently, and that was what was a shame, really. You know, we wouldn't get upset if you were rubbish, because if you're rubbish, best thing is if you're not going to play or do not be around or be injured, I don't care. You know, I'm not crying about Tyrone Malacia being injured. No offence to him. He just seems to lack that perspective or the ability to understand how he's being seen. And yeah, I think that's part of his struggle, really. Maybe that's turned around now, maybe being away from the game, maybe he realises how valuable this opportunity is and how talented he is. But yeah, it just seems to smack of just not understanding the viewpoint around him. And I will tell you something I've never told anyone. The year Jose went and Ole came, it was my best season at United. But after the last game, I told Ole and Ed Woodward that I thought it was my last year and that I wanted to leave. We all know this. We knew this. Yeah, your agent came public, as he did many times, which we also loved as fans. And he never acknowledged that, you know, Raola's constant going to the press and what that effect that had on the fan base, the narrative around it. And actually how Raiola was using the sort of hysteria that comes around United to aid his sort of Pogba work and his ability to get him more money and boost his profile and maybe get his profile higher. As nice as Paul Pogba is, he just seems like the sort of person to be told what to do. You know, he'll go with whatever, you know, Raiola will tell him and that's what they'll do. I don't think he really cared too much about how everyone sees him, because he's just happy in himself, maybe, I don't know. I think that applies also to his football. Scholes said it. I think he needs someone to tell him and instruct him. You look at some of the midfields he played in where he was successful. Juventus, Marquisio to do the running, the knitting of the play, Pirlo to control the play. Basically, you can go and do what you want. So with France, Kante, absolute monster to this day. Will just cover the ground and make up for all your deficiencies. And then Matuidi, again, kind of that leggy presence, up and down, kind of a driver, an example. He might have been given a team talk, but he was not the driving force in that team, really. There are other players like Kante who allowed him to be that. And we never had that, you know. But last note on this, I've never told anyone this. Evra told us 2 years ago that you told him that you wanted to leave and it was Ed Woodward's fault. This isn't news. Someone needs to either tell you or you need to learn. We know all this. This is not a revelation. My verdict, I think, is a man seriously lacking in self-awareness, and some of that makes him happy, and that is endearing. I like seeing him. He seems a happy and nice person. But happy and nice does not make you a world-class midfielder. Consistency does. And I think that's what's always going to stop him. Unless you're going to put him in there around players who will make him look world-class, then you are a very, very good player. But then that is the upper sort of limit as to what you are. I think he played in his own world at times, and that's also not conducive to being consistent and really being elite at the top level. And the last point, I'm seeing this narrative that he rejected us. I can't think of a single Man United fan I know who wants him back. I don't want to see another ball roll in the middle of the park. I don't want to see him slow the play down so he can shoulder barge someone. I don't want to see him lose the ball and then have the ball turned over. I think we see enough of that now. I imagine he was in our midfield. I mean, just an absolute nightmare. Paul Pogba, yeah, just a constant circus around him. I think he doesn't help himself. Honestly glad that he left. He's played about 6 games, even when he wasn't banned, when he was gone. Honestly, I say good riddance. His heart wasn't in it. We don't need him. Paul Pogba, get real, mate.